Let's go next to James in Cambridge.
Hey, David, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you fine, James.
Hi. First, I was wondering, you said something in a show, I think about a week ago, about that it's a myth that the United States ever promised Gorbachev or anyone that NATO wouldn't expand eastwards. And I was just wondering where you had read that, because I've just read some things that are contradictory. So I was just kind of curious about that.
I don't remember the specific source, but my understanding of the story was that it was verbally offered as a concession at one point in negotiations, but that it was subsequently removed at the direction of U.S. and I believe German dignitaries, and it was never codified or signed anywhere and actually made an agreement.
Okay, okay. I just want a clarification on that because I had just seen some transcripts from George Washington University that described, as you said, that it was verbally promised. And my second question, which is more to do with Trump, is why is it that Trump is often portrayed as a populist? Because, first of all, the bulk of his support actually came from higher income people.
Yes.
And secondly, his policies were incredibly beneficial to the rich. For my estimation, he's one of the most elitist presidents in American history.
So your conclusion is correct. He's one of the most elitist. I don't know that it's accurate to say the bulk of his support came from high income people. Is it possible what you meant is high income people supported him more than Hillary? Is that maybe that's what you meant?
Yeah. I to reword what I said, on average in 2016 and 2020, the average income of his supporters was higher than the average income of either of the Democratic nominees.
Okay, now remember, if average means mean, that could not be a super useful metric, but let's not even concern ourselves with that because your main point is a good one, which is about policy. Yes, Trump has been was an incredibly elitist president. The tax reform plan disproportionately benefited the very wealthy, and the things he promised to do for middle income people, lower income people, he didn't do. And I don't know why he was called the populist. I mean, there's two perspectives on that. One is that he's a right-wing populist. Others would say right-wing populism doesn't actually exist. He just used populist rhetoric, but he's not actually a populist. It becomes more of a semantic debate, but the conclusion's the right one. Trump was one of the most pro-elitist presidents we've had.
Yeah, he also destroyed a lot of labor regulations that, especially in COVID, were really disastrous.
Yeah.
I would actually say that people like AOC and Bernie Sanders are are legitimately populist in terms of policy substance than anybody like Trump or Josh Hawley.
I agree with you 100%.
So yeah, thanks for taking my call, David.
Thank you. And then they left a little prematurely there, but that's okay. Let's go next. Where are we going next? How about Jason in Atlanta? Jason, you're on the air.
Hi, David. I'm calling because I was wondering, you have in the past mentioned support for a shorter work week. First of all, how many hours do you think would be ideal? I know Keynes predicted by 2030 we'd have a 15-hour work week.
Yeah, the prediction from Keynes is an old prediction. He predicted that as technology increased productivity, people would basically have mostly time for leisure. It's an old prediction that turned out not to be right, and there's a lot of different reasons why. I have not devoted a lot of time to the number of hours that I think it's different in different industries and different types of jobs. In particular, there are jobs where you quite literally are selling your labor an hour at a time. And so if you reduce the number of hours in order to keep the same compensation, your hourly rate needs to go up. And that's very different for someone working at McDonald's versus someone who is like a lawyer or a therapist that is compensated hourly but has more control over their wage. So for me, it's less about that. I don't have the answers to that, but I've been very supportive of the idea that the bulk of our work can easily be condensed into 4 days in a lot of information type jobs. I want to be really clear about that. And at the show, we condense production of our 5 weekly shows into 4 days. So number of hours, I don't know. Different industries, different answers, but I think much of how work is organized is not super efficient in terms of providing the most leisure time.
Okay, yeah, thank you. And you kind of are you answered what my next question was going to be, which was how we would make up for the lost income. Because if most people are working hourly, if they get their hours cut, they would be making less money.
Right. With salaried workers, if you become more inspired and more efficient by knowing that your work week is shorter and you kind of get the same amount of work done, you could say that takes care of itself. There are some who say, well, we don't really need as much efficiency as we actually get. It would be okay if we were not quite as efficient. There's really a lot of different opinions about that. But for the hourly worker who, if you go to someone who makes $15 an hour working 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, and you say, great news, you now only work Monday through Thursday. If you don't make any other change, you've taken 20% of their income.
Right.
Yeah. I don't have an answer to that. Yeah. Thanks, Jason from Atlanta. Very important question.